Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, indulge me because I have been asked actually instructed, I think, by President Sassou Nguesso to give a progress report on the meeting we had in Paris on the financing pact. And you know, in keeping with African tradition, when an elder gives instructions, you have to obey. So let me give a brief progress report, and I hope he will be listening. After the meetings we had in Paris, we subsequently had the Africa Climate Summit, in which we consolidated our position as a continent. And we were clear on what kind of financing infrastructure that we were looking for. Number one, we were looking for concessionary resources that would make sense to our development. Number two, we were looking for long-term resources that had grace periods of up to 10 years and repayment periods of up to 40 years. Number three, we wanted these resources at scale. And number four, we were very clear that these resources were meant for the financing of our development. We subsequently took our position to COP28, and we had a very positive conversation. And finally, we launched the Africa Green Industrialization Initiative that will provide a mechanism for investment in our green energy resources to facilitate industrialization, to create jobs, to create wealth, and to move Africa to the next level. That is why last week, as an engaged American government, 60% of the time I spent prosecuting Africa's agenda, and 40% of the time I spent pushing Kenya's agenda, because I understand that there cannot be a prosperous Kenya without a thriving Africa. And therefore, I want to state without fear of any contradiction that the progress and transformation of Kenya is intertwined with that of Africa. Kenya is honored to host this meeting, and we take the boards and management of the two institutions, we thank them for this privilege. I have already requested that after hosting Africa Development Bank's annual meeting 30 years ago in 1994, and again today in 2024, it would be fair and fitting for Kenya to host again in 2054. I am told by my brother evangelist at the Sina that my request is under consideration. I would request that this decision be made early, because neither we nor the decision makers then might be fit enough to do so 30 years from now. Once again, I welcome you all to Nairobi and Kenya, and wish you fruitful deliberations during this annual meeting of the African Development Bank and African Development Fund. I urge you to take time to sample the delights that Kenya has to offer, including a national park, which is just 10 minutes away from here. Thank you very much. Happy 60th anniversary, Africa Development Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, but I see that you're already overthrowing my president as the evangelist for Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we have spent quite an awful long time today. and we don't want you to continue to spend a lot of time, but we just have one little thing to do: the unveiling of the next 10-year strategy of the bank, which will take just a very few minutes. Can you please animate? And as you animate, can you please get copies ready? And I will call upon the President of the Republic. I will call upon the President of the African Development Bank. I will call upon the Chairperson of the African Union Commission and the Chairperson of the Board of Governors to please stand in the middle as they bring the copies for you to unveil. But prior to that, could you please animate? May I call on Caroline Kende-Robb and Nancy Baker to please bring copies. So here you have it, unveiled the next 10-year strategy of the African Development Bank Group. Governors, copies will be shared out to you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, the Head of State. Thank you, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. And thank you, Chairperson of the Board of Governors. And to close this session, may I please invite the Senior Vice President, Swazi Shabalala, to give a vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm well aware that I'm standing between you and lunch, so I will be very brief. Excellencies, distinguished guests, Chairperson of the Board of Governors of the African Development Bank, Governors of the African Development Bank, alternate governors of the African Development Bank, Board of Directors, senior management, and hope that is everyone. I am honored to stand before you today at this auspicious occasion as we commemorate the African Development Bank's 60 years of existence in this beautiful city, the green city in the sun, Nairobi. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to convey our gratitude to the government and the people of Kenya for the cordial and very warm hospitality and all the measures taken to ensure the success of the 2024 annual meetings of the African Development Bank. We are greatly honored that you could be part of these celebrations today. Your bank is the realization of the dream of our illustrious forebears, that the African Development Bank would transform the continent into the Africa we want. Thank you for celebrating the journey and the remarkable achievements of our institution, even as we acknowledge the long road ahead towards prosperity and the fulfillment of Africa's aspirations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me express on behalf of the bank our deep gratitude to the governors, executive directors, the president, the chief, what do we call you again? The chief, he's got lots of names, and every single staff of the bank, past and present, for their dedication and commitment. And in conclusion, it is with the utmost sincerity that we express our hope for the continued success of the African Development Bank. Thank you, merci beaucoup, obrigada, shukran, asanteni sana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SVP. Let me use this opportunity to profusely apologize to the initially planned 2 panels. But you can believe that we've had literally all the panels that we are supposed to have. And because heads of state have stayed for too long and lunch is getting cold, we'll rather transition to lunch and deeply apologize to the other 2 panels so that governors can do their work, because we still have the first sitting. So as we finish, we'll proceed for the higher level luncheon by invitation only. I'm sure you have your invitation. And may I invite my Kenyan counterpart to announce about the particular lunch that will follow also.
Thank you, Secretary General. There's lunch for everybody, so don't panic. So those who are not in the high-level lunch, right next to the high-level tent, there's lunch for everybody. And why don't we give ourselves a wonderful round of applause for being patient and staying till this time. And with that,